Yeah, so Khamzat Chimaev obviously wants to be super active this year, even though it's he's not booked yet, which is pretty interesting. Obviously, it's only January, so he still has time to fight a couple times this year, and we don't really know how that's gonna go. But the only real reason he wasn't fighting last year much was because of how he got COVID, and he had it pretty bad. So that was super unfortunate to see. But now that he's clear and he's doing well, we want to see him booked and we want to see him fight. It's kind of like what we expect at this point now, because of how easily he's managing these fights. It's like he's not getting hurt in any fight he's in. So
Yeah,
I mean,
he's his own manager at this point.
yeah, and he wants to be active and in 2022 to get him a title shot, that's a large task. But I think he really could, especially if he goes up against Burns, which I mean they've verbally agreed on, but it's definitely not confirmed.
Yeah, and even if Hamza didn't immediately fight Burns, and because the UFC even said themselves that probably Hamza has four more fights until he gets a title shot in their books,
Yeah,
but
seems like a lot though.
yeah, it definitely seems like a lot, especially because how much hype they have and how they've hyped and how former fighters that have been hyped kind of fast track to the title shot. However, maybe they want to prevent one of those situations where a high potential star kind of loses it by losing to the champion by being rushed too fast. But I feel like in the current standings with him being 11th, and that's why the fight, him fighting Neil Magny and Belal Muhammad is really important for him. As if the UFC is going to put those kind of the restrictions on him, then if he fights those guys, it plus added to his experience level, and it'll put him even higher into the rankings. So when he eventually does probably fight Burns, it'll look even better for him to gain the title shot.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, when you look at the standings of the welterweight division, how the champion right now has been going through everyone. He's went through pretty much all the top guys. I mean, the top three guys he has wins over, which are Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, and Leon Edwards, and potentially going to fight Leon Edwards again and fought Colby Covington twice. And I mean, he's just been so dominant in the welterweight division. And I mean, if Kamza could work his way up, then it definitely makes sense to get him a title shot in this year, in this calendar year. So I think it could happen with wins, even against Bilal Muhammad, who's a sixth ranked contender. I think even that fight could maybe get him really close to a title shot. But if not, then I guess we're gonna have to do with comes up fighting somebody else like a Neil Magny, which is still going to be exciting because it's still going to build him up more. And then in the future, that Burns fight will be even bigger because of the hype if he's able to get past Neil Magny in dominant fashion, which I personally think he would.
If Leon Edwards actually finally gets his title shot against Usman, and let's say Usman beats him, then and also if Hamza gets a fight with Burns and ends up beating him, there's really no point kind of not to give him a title shot because who else would they give a title shot to? Because
Yeah.
everyone else would be kind of rematches or trilogies. The UFC, I'm sure they probably see the importance of not rushing him immediately. That's why they might have not fancied the Burns fight so close, but still, at some point, there's gonna be you can't deny him at some point,
Yeah, I mean, this guy
pretty
has so
much.
much potential. I mean, he's like a mix of Conor McGregor and Khabib. I mean, he's getting so much praise from a lot of his training partners. For example, Alexander Gustafsson, who's a light heavyweight and has had huge wars with a lot of the top light heavyweights. And I mean, he's been giving huge praise to Kamzat and saying that he would beat every welterweight easily, and how he trains with middleweights and light heavyweights and heavyweights, and he's
Super
dominant because
heavyweights.
Super. And I mean, he says he doesn't even train with welterweights because he just it's too
He's too
easy for him.
powerful, and oh
He's
yeah,
he's
he's just
too
too
he's
big, too powerful, and
he's
everything,
too
which is
good,
high
yeah. And
praise.
and he was saying that he would put Usman to sleep, which is a big statement. But obviously, there's bias of being in his team and not being in his side. But just to have Alexander Gustafsson, a guy on that caliber, giving you that kind of praise is super promising for his future. Because I mean, if everything we're hearing about this guy is true, and he has amazing striking, kicking, and obviously his wrestling, he'd really be the full package, and he'd probably be the guy to look out for in the UFC right now.
And just because of Usman being out of contenders and pretty much top competition at least very soon, him versus Hamza would be a really interesting style clash due to both guys being amazing wrestlers and both guys seeming to have huge power in their hands. So in some ways, they're bit similar in some ways, but I feel if Hamza was able to beat Usman, it would like transcend him to a whole nother level, especially considering how dominant Usman has been.
And I mean, it's hard to say right now, especially because of the unknowns of Khamzat. But I mean, the fact that he's only been hit like 3 times in 4 fights in the UFC, or something crazy like that. I might be a bit off, but that stat is just absurd. The fact that he's been hit so little times, and he has more fights in the UFC than he's been hit, which is just unreal. It just proves how dominant he's been in all of his fights, and he hasn't gone past the second round. So I mean, all these statistics of how this guy's been so dominant, and then you'd watch him fighting, and it's exciting, and it's you want to watch more of him. So I mean, this guy has all the potential, and I think he could definitely get a title shot this year.
Li Jing Leon, who Hamza just fought, and even though he wasn't ranked the highest, you could say, but still, whenever he usually fights guys, he usually puts them in a war, and is usually very aggressive and is a tough challenge for people because of just he puts them into bad situations.
Not a
But the
challenge for
way
Khamzat.
that yeah, exactly, because the way he put him away was just like picture perfect.
And it's just crazy that not 1 second of that fight did Khamzat have control. He had control the entire fight. For every single second that went by, he was controlling him. He baited him to getting the takedown and carrying him, and just every single thing he did, he just manipulated the hell out of him, and it was just absurd.
And if we continue to see this type of dominance, like he could be reigning over the UFC for a very long time to come. And it's not like he's an older fighter. He's not
Yeah,
the
he's
youngest, you
super
could
young.
say, but yeah, but he's like he's still in his 20s. And if this guy could take over, especially somewhat soon, he's gonna be reigning over the UFC for a long time. And also, he's only been training in combat sports for not that long. Obviously, his wrestling, he's been doing it for all of his life, but in MMA, he hasn't been training there for too long. And if he were to climb the ranks, he would have a lot of durability as he hasn't been hit that many times in his career thus far.
Yeah, and I mean he's huge as well for the welterweight division. I mean all these guys he towers over, and I mean there's a reason that Gustafsson was saying that. I mean he'd be going through all these welterweights because he's huge, and the way he's been dominating and just overpowering everyone has been absurd. So I mean I think it'd definitely be interesting to see how he does, even at middleweight, because I mean he's fought there before, and it looks like he can make that pretty comfortably. So it's definitely interesting to see where this guy goes. His potential is really unmatched in the UFC, and it's going to be exciting.